know you have 15 things to remember right before a podcast?
Oh, heck yeah.
That was one of them.
Story of my life.
Yeah. Yeah, you're like, no, I don't know. I might have read a book about it once.
It's like a miracle I'm even here.
Oh, gosh.
Welcome to Wise Squirrels, the podcast for late diagnosed adults with ADHD. I'm your host, Dave Delaney. This podcast is partly about my own journey of being diagnosed with ADHD at 50 years old. The purpose of this podcast is to remove the stigmas associated with ADHD and for me to learn and share what I'm learning with you. I'm not here to record these interviews and talk into the void. The point of this podcast is to build a community with you, and I want to hear from you. On the show, I feature interviews with ADHD experts, thought leaders, and high achievers with ADHD. People like Dr. Robert Dempsey, who for 60 years didn't know he had ADHD, and he directed the International Space Station for NASA.
You're a PhD in astrophysics with, as a NASA flight director for many years. How could you have ADHD? As we kind of started going through the questionnaire and discussion, she was like, oh, yeah, that seems pretty clear to me now.
You knew you were developing coping mechanisms. You just didn't know it was related to something that we call ADHD.
Right.
And I really, frankly, think ADHD is a huge misnomer. It's not a deficit of attention. It's much more complicated than that. It is a dysregulated attentional system. And I imagine you have experienced this in your own life, that this type of brain that we call ADHD is really capable of an intense hyperfocus that most folks are not capable of.
Some of these TikTok videos blow me away, and I've kind of blocked them out. So,
yeah, I don't blame you.
You know, it's like they say, I like doing this, and I like doing this, and I like doing this, and I like doing this. So I have ADHD.
Right.
It's kind of that kind of thing. And it's like, it's a little bit more complex than that. We used to diagnose them hyperkinetic reaction in childhood. And I remember back in the 70s, the father, he behaved just like me when I was a kid, and look at me now. And of course, my response is, yeah, look at you now.
Right.
But it really wasn't into the middle 80s that they began to recognize that it didn't disappear at age 13.
Right.
It just looked different. So that hyperactive kid that was bouncing all over the place, it's just that it became that internal restlessness that people with ADHD often feel. That's where that hyperactivity went. And the inattentive stuff stayed there. I mean, the statistics suggest at least up to 80% of the kids who are diagnosed with ADHD still have the diagnosis as adults.
So the parent-child dynamic is a way of describing sort of over-functioning on the part of one partner and under-functioning on the part of the other. For example, making a promise and having difficulty following through on that promise because the ADHD symptoms get in a way. The person who's in the under-functioning, more childlike role, often the ADHD role, it loses status in the relationship. They lose respect. They sort of often cope with it by going and hiding or not bringing up things or becoming very resentful or becoming quite defiant. So it's a really difficult pattern. By the time people find a consultant or a counselor to work with, 99% of the couples that we see have this dynamic going on.
A lot of my interrupting and sort of telling people, someone will be telling a story and I'll need to interrupt and immediately share something that relates to me about that story. And what I found out is the reason I do that is when you grow up being told that you are unable to be normal, or you don't fit in, or you just should sit down and stop disrupting the class, whatever it is, one of the things you do almost immediately is you attempt to show everyone you meet that you're not broken, that you're not as bad of a kid as everyone thinks. So what winds up happening is you wind up becoming socially awkward because you don't know about timing. You don't know when to shut up. You don't know when to sit down and let other people talk because you constantly feel this need to tell people, no, I'm good. I'm okay. You'll like me. Trust me. That comes from years of teachers, parents, not my parents, but teachers, adults telling you, hey, sit down, you're doing this wrong. We really do need to sort of change that dialogue.
That's part of the community that we've talked about, right? The ADHD community is when you see someone that's like you, or you hear something that resonates in this way. There's this deep sense of connection. And that ADHD community is like, it's so present, where we just feel like we can be ourselves. We can be our true, authentic, genuine selves. And we don't have to mask or be something different or be more typical. And I think that's why, we connect with each other. We connect with the music. We connect with friends and relationships. And so many people in my life also have ADHD.
There's an idea in brain science called neuroplasticity. It's like anything we do repetitively starts to rewire the brain. So the practice of meditation isn't trying to shut off your thoughts, and it isn't trying to be calm all the time. Both of those are totally impossible. And to understand meditation and stick with it, you just need to reframe it as you're trying to develop awareness of and then patience around things like your emotional state or staying grounded and intentional in the face of challenges. My favorite one-line description of the practice of mindfulness is that really we're just trying to intentionally build the traits that help us manage life as easily as possible. Like, you're not going to relax every time you meditate.
Right.
So mindfulness means basically non-judgmental awareness. So it's just like seeing reality as it is, even if reality in this moment is I'm so distracted I can't have a conversation. That's still mindfulness.
Let's reframe ADHD once and for all as a brain type or a trait that comes with some challenges that need to be managed, but that also comes with some very significant and impressive strengths. And we should look at both sides of that. Too often we myopically look at the negatives of ADHD. Oh, that kid has ADHD. Oh, what a shame. Not really. That kid's going to struggle now, but one day he's going to be signing your paychecks.
I'm thrilled to have you here. You can reach me at wisesquirrels.com. So sit back, relax, tell your friends.